Florida State travels 1,300 miles away from Tallahassee this weekend to play Boston College. And so you wouldn't think that a hurricane would potentially be impacting the game. However, that's the exact issue that we might be dealing with. The Florida State-Boston College game scheduled for noon on Sunday, potentially going to be impacted by Hurricane Lee. Now, this is certainly not to cause any panic or outrage. Apparently, talking about the last storm that we dealt with the week of the LSU game upset some folks. If that's you, maybe just click out of the video. But for the rest of you guys, I will share what I'm hearing, what my thoughts are, some potential options for what may happen with this game. Now, obviously, there's a hurricane heading north, somewhat running parallel with the coast, and it could cause a major issue for the Seminoles as they play Boston College this weekend. As with any potential storm, we offer our thoughts and prayers first and foremost to those who are in its path affected. Life, health, safety all mean way more than some dumb game. I get it. Being a football channel, though, we are going to talk about how this could potentially impact our Seminoles. Now, here's the big thing with the storm. As it continues to move north, it seems like there's a great chance that there could be a ton of wind and rain that impact the Boston area on Saturday morning and afternoon, directly when the game is scheduled to happen. Now, here's the big issue with that. If Florida State goes up there and travels and a game is delayed, they've wasted a ton of resources, time, effort, and energy heading into probably the biggest week of the season, which is Clemson. There are a few options that I think could happen. I've talked with some people, and as far as yesterday goes, I spoke with some people at Florida State, and they told me that no changes were in the works yet, but I've spoken with some other folks that believe different options are being discussed as of today. Don't necessarily know that anything is going to be impacted, but I do think the timeline is somewhat urgent. Florida State, Boston College, the ACC need to decide on something rather quickly because time is running out for travel plans to be adjusted at this point. It is Wednesday afternoon. If you're watching this, maybe Wednesday evening, and the team is scheduled to fly out on Friday. So if you're thinking about moving the game up or back, wherever, you probably need to get that done ASAP. Now, I think there are four major options that could happen with this game that could slightly alter how it's played, when it's played, where it's played maybe, and that might give Florida State fans some hope, some assurance that we're not going to be playing in the middle of a hurricane on Saturday afternoon. Now, the best option is that this thing continues to track east. And the farther east it gets, the less impact that Boston should feel, and the better off we will be for playing this game. The models had continued to track west slightly, which causes an issue for sure for things to get closer and hairier there in Boston. But some of the models have started to shift more east, which could be a good thing for both the Eagles and the Seminoles. But let's talk about some of the options that I think Florida State, Boston College, and the ACC have for this game. Number one, I think the easiest thing to do would be for this game to just be moved to Friday. I think that causes a little bit of an issue because it's a short week for both teams, but not in a major way. I think that you would move travel up by a day. Florida State could maybe travel out tomorrow as opposed to traveling out on Friday. You get there, you play your game a day early. Florida State, an overwhelming favorite in this game. I don't think that's going to be a massive impact on them any more than it will be on BC. BC obviously having the luxury of not having to travel, but a flight to Boston, not a huge deal. I think what's smartest and what would probably be easiest is to just go ahead and make that call and get the game moved a day earlier. I think that what would be the smoothest and probably easiest overall would be for the game to just happen on Saturday like you want it to, but who knows how and if that's going to be able to happen with the storm somewhat unpredictable, actually very unpredictable. Another option maybe is to move the game and still play it this weekend, but move it to Sunday. I think this is a little bit more of a risky situation because if the hurricane was to track more west back toward the mainland, I think that Sunday might be out of the picture anyway. And so you don't want to move something or delay something to Sunday and then it track toward you. I'd rather play the game early. Also, that cuts into your Clemson prep a little bit. You're playing your biggest opponent of the year, probably your biggest opponent of the last 10 years because you haven't been able to beat them in so long. And I think you want the full week to prepare. Now, getting the game over with, all those things, important. I get it. but I think you want as much time for Clemson as is physically possible. A third option might exist, and it's been alluded to. It's been hinted at some. I haven't heard it super serious anywhere. That doesn't mean that it could not potentially happen, but there is the option of moving the game to Tallahassee. Remember a couple of years ago when LSU and Florida played, they swapped the series. Florida ended up going to LSU on a hurricane week, hurricane year. And then it flipped back, and they played 2 games in the swamp in back-to-back years to make up for it. The year that flopped, and then the next year would have been theirs anyway. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I certainly think that there would be no issue with getting the Boston College down here to play this game, and then you just go up there next year. Or the next time you return, you go back up to Boston. BC not an opponent that is going to be on the schedule every single year, but I just think you make that up. You go back their way the next time. You can get creative with how you split revenue and different things like that, but that's probably another option. Again, because they're not on the schedule yearly anymore, might be a little tougher to do, but still certainly something that could be worked out. Not that big of a deal if Florida State plays one less home game next year and travels up to BC, or just whenever the ACC schedules us with them again. I think the fourth option is probably the second most easiest, and it's one that I think is flying way under the radar here that nobody has really talked about. Shout out my guy AMFK Knoll on Twitter, who did point this out, and I think it's something that we should certainly think about and something that's probably being discussed. But Florida State could play Boston College on 9:30. That'd be the Saturday after Clemson. So instead of having the bye before Clemson, or bye after Clemson, you have your bye before Clemson. Play Boston College afterward. I don't think that's a big deal one way or the other. Again, what's crazy about all of these options, I think Florida State's a overwhelming favorite no matter how, when, where, or why this game is played. So I don't think it really matters. I think you just need to get the game in. You want to get that extra work. Again, I'd rather it happen before Clemson, but the idea of moving the game to 9:30, right now Boston College is scheduled to play Virginia that day. Boston College plays Virginia in 2 weeks from this Saturday on that 9:30 weekend, but both teams have a bye week on 10/14. So both teams have a bye week just 2 weeks later. I think that becomes a really easy scenario. You move the Boston College game to the week after Clemson. Both UVA and Boston College then play there on the 14th. It lines up really easily. You don't have to move 17 games around. You literally just move 2. The Florida State-Boston College game gets moved to 9:30. Boston College-Virginia gets moved to 10:14. To me, that's probably the easiest scenario if you're not able to get the game in this week. No reason to cancel this thing. No reason to just mark it off the schedule. I do think if it had to be canceled, I don't necessarily think that the playoff committee or anything like that would hold it against Florida State. I think we all know kind of what would happen in this game, what would come to fruition in this game. If the Clemson game got canceled, if the Miami game got canceled for something weird, that would be something I think the playoff committee would be like, well, you didn't win this big game. I don't think it would really matter with BC. That said, you don't want the game canceled. You want to play the game. You want to get out there and have an opportunity to showcase. You want it for so many reasons. Jordan Travis's Heisman, all kind of different factors. So to me, you either move this back by a day, you move it to Friday, or you move it to 9:30, move that BC UVA game to 10:14. I think they need to move on this quickly. It's tough because the storm, again, unpredictable. If it continues to shift east, probably not going to make an impact at all. Maybe playing some wind and rain, but not a super massive impact or detrimental impact by any means. I don't think you want to get up there and get out there, warm up, get called off the field, weather delay, rain delay, all this stuff. I think I would just go ahead and move it to Friday. If something massive happens, bump it to that 10-14 weekend. I don't necessarily like playing the game Sunday. Playing the game in Tally would totally be fine with me. I just don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know if that's the route or the option they'll go. So make sure that you are tuned in. Of course, we'll do our very best to keep you updated on this. 2 weeks ago, the storm had no impact on that LSU game, but thankfully, that one wasn't impacted. Hopefully, we'll be lucky again this time. Again, if you're in the path, if you're watching this, if you're impacted or affected by this at all, our thoughts and prayers with you, of course. Obviously, hasn't hit mainland or anything like that close to it, but it could as the next couple of days go by. We will be previewing the Boston College game tonight at 7 Eastern. I would expect that we have a little more clarity on what's going to happen then. So just a few hours from now, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss that. We will absolutely share the very latest of what we have and we know then. But let us know Any questions, any comments, any thoughts down below? We certainly do appreciate interacting with you guys there. Again, couple options for Florida State. I'm hearing that some things are being discussed. Some of these options are absolutely being talked about right now. So we'll kind of see what comes out of it. Again, I think if you're going to move it at all, you need to kind of adjust travel plans quickly. If something doesn't come out tonight, I don't see them making an announcement tomorrow morning and then just immediately jumping on a plane. Not that that couldn't happen. It just seems pretty rushed, seems pretty panicked. I would look for some news to continue to come out and leak out today, tomorrow. I think what's smartest is to move it to Friday night. Does that happen or not? I don't know. You've got the ACC involved, and they're not very good at making good decisions, as we know. So we'll kind of see as it goes. Hey, quick plug real quick to our friends over at Prize Picks. Get on the app. I made a bunch of money this weekend, taking overs, taking more or less wherever, all over the app. Make sure that you're logged in, tuned in with Prize Picks. Use code DFNS to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Appreciate our friends over there at Prize Picks. If you haven't downloaded the app or signed up, go do it. If you've already signed up, create a new email and support us and do it like that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate the support. Again, stay safe if you're traveling up there this weekend. Monitor the reports. Hopefully we don't have to cancel any flights or anything like that. But thank you guys for tuning in as always, and go Noles.